Okay, so I'm sure I've annoyed somebody with the sheer amount of content I've uploaded regarding Blade Wolf and his theme, but this video is to try and explain it all. Plain and simple, he has become one of my favorite fictional characters of all time, and his theme has now tied Angel of Darkness for my favorite song of all time. And this is all thanks to my friend Volgorn Horn for introducing me to the game Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. He himself says he thought I would hate the game, but far from it. I adore this game, and that's coming from someone who A, has never played a Metal Gear game aside from this one, and B, knew nothing about Metal Gear before playing it. Yeah. One of the biggest reasons for that is indeed Blade Wolf. Now, I've liked the idea of a robot dog before. Heck, I always thought robots by themselves were cool. Characters like Jenny and Goddard were an introduction to such. Hell, I would even count the FNAF animatronics. I always wondered as a kid what it would be like to be a robot but have complex thoughts and emotions. Like a human, but not have the sensitivity to things like pain. It's such a neat concept that triggers some deep thought. Another concept Blade Wolf's character tackles that hit me in a huge way was his lack of freedom. Being forced to do things he didn't want to or saw no reason to is a subject that hits home with me. Why? 'Cause I relate. Now, obviously, I have never been forced to do something as drastic as he has, such as killing, but I know all too well how it feels to feel like you always have to do what you're told and feel like you have no choice or like your choices don't matter. That's legit how I felt my whole life, be it intentional of the adults in my life or not. There have been very few moments from when I was a kid that made me feel like I or my choices mattered. I rarely felt in control of anything, and it sadly kind of became my identity. Even to this day, I feel it to some degree, such as the fact that I am lesbian asexual. As such, I struggle all the time with people who refuse to understand how I feel about things, or people that refuse to let me live my life on my own terms. As much progress has been made regarding gay rights, there is still a fight that needs to be won for it. And every day it just makes me feel like I'm wrong, and like I should be ashamed because of it, even if I know that I am who I am, and it's others who need to respect it. So in a way, those who try to tear those in the LGBTQ+ community down and shackle them and I from our rights are kind of our figurative desperado. They want to control our choices and who we are, and not let us have our freedom. Figurative shackles like these make me relate to Blade Wolf. And it also relates to how much I want to fight it. Fight against these chains, but my drive to do so keeps being shattered by how hopeless the state of my home makes me feel. Just like his hopes were fired up and then destroyed during the story of his DLC. This has led me to slowly be broken as I grew up, and to this day I struggle with a beta complex where in my head I want to fight and claw and tear away at what holds me down, but I instinctually react in a beta way, bowing down and taking abuse simply because I have it ingrained in my mind that there is nothing I can do about it, and that just kills a person over time. I have lived my whole life with the notion that you will suffer mentally and physically if someone so chooses, and you are helpless and cannot do a damn thing about it. You have no choice. So you can likely see why I care about Blade Wolf so much already, but there is another half to this. The fact that I have high-functioning autism. Now, that might seem like a strange thing to bring up when regarding a character like Blade Wolf, but let me explain. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is defined as a developmental disorder of variable severity that is characterized by difficulty in social interaction and communication, and by restricted or repetitive patterns of thought and behavior. Now, as the name suggests, it's a spectrum, a very wide one. This is a from-birth mental disorder, meaning there is no cure. And seemingly the cause is kind of a mystery, though there is likely a genetic predisposition to it, as my family is kind of proof of that, but nothing gives someone autism. It cannot be passed or given in any way after birth. You are just born with it, or you're not. Sorry for the long explanation, but with some people out there who think falsely about the disorder, I always feel the need to hammer this in. Especially the anti-vaxxers, but I digress. Now, before I explain, I'm going to list some personal autism symptoms I struggle with to kind of show why I relate again. Then I'll explain. I have unusual reactions to the way things sound, smell, taste, look, or feel, depending on what they are. Unusual emotional reactions to things most people see as no big deal. Finding it hard to understand what others are thinking or feeling. Seeming blunt or rude without meaning to. finding it hard to say how you feel, taking things literally, not hearing someone's tone of voice when speaking, noticing things others do not, thinking in a very black and white fashion. There are obviously many more, but those are what I choose to list for now. Some of these things can certainly make me relate to a robot, huh? The last one especially. I have struggled to overcome the insensitive part of that way of thinking for the most part, but there was one thing in particular that struck me like a brick and made me realize how similar I was to the character. And that was this line from Mistral at the end of his DLC.
You see only logic and reason. You would never understand.
Yeah, guess what I thought when hearing that? My response was literally, and the issue with that is, I always think that way, and it always made me wonder just how unusual that frame of mind was. Now, I know it, hopefully, isn't that unusual, but it still made me wonder if I do have a robotic way of thinking. It made me think about other moments too, like here.
Well, what did you think of the exercise?
Mission accomplished. The target was neutralized.
That giant intellect, and this is all you have to say?
I obey the orders I am given. I was not ordered to gather data on the merits of the mission.
I think like this too. I don't think outside of basic tasks or what I'm told to do, which can make learning difficult. But I got decent grades in school because once I had my assignment, I would focus on it and nothing else. In working at a job when I did, I had a similar issue, where if I was told to go find something to accomplish, I couldn't effing do it, but if I was told a specific task and when it needed to be done, it would get done. It kind of shows that when given free will sometimes, I don't really do a good job of having it. To this day, with things like art commissions, I don't think to overachieve. I just do what I'm told and nothing else unless given instruction. I'm not making this up, I really am just like this. Now, I'm going to delve into his theme song. I'm my own master now. Before I go into why this song matters so much to me, I'm going to let the song play, and while it does, I will put text on screen expressing how I relate to each lyric. So yeah, the song speaks to me in a lot of ways. From the way it wails about wishing to make your own choices, to be allowed to do what you choose and not be at the whim of someone else. It even gives a tragic feel of what it's like to long to be free from any kind of torment, really. But especially in that fact that Wolf has to kill and do some pretty awful things against his will when he doesn't see any reason to fight or have anything to really fight for. Yet another reason why the DLC is so powerful Because after Wolf escapes, he now has a reason to fight, and therefore he kills more targets in order to achieve his wish for freedom. He will fight for his freedom. It's the same kind of feel for when you get to this scene in the main game and this howling plays right before Wolf throws the sword to Raiden.
Raiden!
Wolf.
It now sounds heroic and proud of the freedom that was achieved, and both this and the song itself kind of speak to the state of my life right now. While I still struggle with self-doubt, it's less so, and now I have a will to fight for what I believe in, unlike when I was a kid. And this howl sounds exactly like the sound I would make to signify this. Wolf and I both. As I mentioned in the on-screen text, it helps that I naturally have a deep love for canines and especially wolves. They're just awesome by default, and believe me, I love my dog to the ends of the earth. I've pondered a lot whether it could be seen as interesting or kinda pathetic for a human to relate to a robot, but over time I can't really deny this, since there are times I feel like an AI within a robot rather than be a human being, and sadly people can certainly seem to enjoy treating me like one. That's honestly a big key to how I feel, because I am deemed different or whatever. I'm treated like I'm less. Me feeling useless or helpless didn't happen out of nowhere. People are equal no matter what, and more people need to realize that. If someone is different than you, it's not up to you to control them or try to change them. Be concerned about your own life, not the lives of others. Them being different than you does you no harm. I am going to admit, though, that freedom goes both ways. After all, if you want freedom yourself, you have to allow others the freedom to make the wrong choices, such as trying to control others. In freedom, there are wrong choices, and people need to know that as well. There's never a good reason to hurt others or put them down for being who they are if they're doing no harm. Kindness and understanding costs nothing, guys. That's all I mainly wanted to say in this vent of a video, and I hope someone out there enjoyed it. I took way too long to finish this like I do with all my commentary videos, but hopefully I'll get better about it as time goes on. See you guys.